We are set to unveil the field of 64. They're watching down in Tallahassee where Florida State, they won it all last year and they are ready to go for another. How about down in Tuscaloosa, Alabama? What is in store in the coming weeks for the SEC's regular season champion, Alabama Crimson Tide? They're checking out the action tonight. And how about in Arizona? Will they have some momentum coming off their big weekend? The 8-time champions anxious to find out where they will be heading for this NCAA tournament. It is on again.
The whole mindset changes as you move into the tournament.
It's a different sense of pressure.
They can get it done on a multiple of different ways.
One of the best offenses in the country.
It's been highlight play after highlight play.
And it's gone!
You have to embrace this moment. You have to soak it up.
You're seeing the best college softball players on the field in this tournament.
So we're already seeing fireworks.
Just believe we're supposed to be there.
Who's going to be able to do it? Who's going to punch their ticket to the championship series?
Welcome to the NCAA Softball Championship Selection Special, presented by Capital One.
Howdy from College Station, Texas. You know, we couldn't get home to our ESPN headquarters after the SEC tournament, so our friends here at Texas A&M are taking great care of us, and this will be our home inside the Diamond Club at Davis Diamond for the next hour as we get set to unveil the field of 64 teams on the road to the Women's College World Series. I'm Beth Mowens, Amanda Scarborough, Michelle Smith. We've also got Holly Rowe with us, and we will provide all the insight and information you need to enjoy the NCAA tournament. And we'll start out with you, Amanda. What are you looking forward to tonight?
I can't wait to see how the transfers and new faces of freshmen really impact the postseason. That seems to be a theme this year, is really impactful freshmen and also transfers popping across all over the country. So I can't wait to see the type of impact that they make in this tournament.
And we've had a lot of great young freshmen that have done a really good job throughout the season, but this is the postseason, so it's about overcoming that adversity. How are you going to do it? It's very rare that a team will go through the postseason undefeated, so how do you deal with that adversity and bounce back? We saw Florida State do that last year.
Here's how it's going to work tonight. We will unveil the teams by the 16 seeds in descending order based on who is hosting. You can stay at home if you're a top 16, and if you're a top 8 the following weekend in the Super Regionals. It is all double elimination format on the road to Oklahoma City, the Women's College World Series opening day on May 30th. The best 8 teams in all the land will be there. So here we go. It's time to show you who's headed where, and the overall #1 seed for the second time, the Oklahoma Sooners, winners of an NCAA single-season record, 39 games in a row. They are at home in Marietta Hines Field for the Norman Regional, and they will be playing on Friday night on ESPN2 against the Retrievers of UMBC with Sierra Pierce and Courtney Coppersmith, champs of the America East. Also in Norman this weekend, the Wisconsin Badgers and the Big Ten's first ever Player of the Year from Wisconsin, Kayla Conwent. And who will they be opening up against in prime time on ESPN? The Fighting Irish of Notre Dame and the ACC's Player of the Year, Kate Brooks, with 20 home runs, and a 20-game winner in the circle of freshman Peyton Tidd, as Oklahoma gets the top seed again, Michelle.
This is a very complete pitching staff for Oklahoma, led by G. Juarez, Mariah Lopez, as well as Shannon Zell. Juarez has just been outstanding from the left side. Rise ball, explosive in the zone, but the offense for this team, amazing. Sid Romero is blasting the ball out of the park. Shay Knighton, a very, very strong senior class that has done a lot. In fact, 2 national championships already for these seniors.
Sooners overall #1 champs of the Big 12. How about the #2 seed, one of the co-champs of the Pac-12, and the UCLA Bruins trying for a 12th national championship, led by the first ever player and pitcher of the year in the same person, and it's Rachel Garcia leading the way Friday night on ESPNU against the Big Sky champions from Weber State. Again, double elimination format on Friday, Saturday, and Sunday in Westwood at Easton Stadium. Joining the Bruins and the Wildcats, the Tigers of Missouri. They played UCLA, lost to the Bruins back in February. In fact, they played 7 Pac-12 teams this year in their non-conference. They should be ready to go in LA, and they will take on the champions from the Big West and national champs from 1986, Cal State Fullerton. So here we go with the Bruins trying to get back to the World Series and win another title.
And they're led again by Rachel Garcia, last year's National Player of the Year, and she's a front runner for it again this year. .98 ERA, .352 batting average. She can do it all. But this team, top 5 in the nation in batting average, ERA, and scoring, with Kelly Gooden and her speed, Bubba Nichols and Aaliyah Jordan with their power. This is a truly talented offense.
UCLA, the 2 seed, a lot of love early on for the Pac-12 conference because the 3 seed overall is the Washington Huskies at home in Husky Stadium in the Seattle Regional. They've won 23 of their last 24 games, and they are smoking hot, heading into a matchup with the Fordham Rams on Friday night. Champs of the A-10 regular season. Their tournament got canceled because of weather, so they get the automatic bid and a date with Washington. Also in the Seattle Regional, the Seattle U Redhawks, their first NCAA tournament, and they're just headed across town, champs of the WAC, led by a 400 hitter, Alyssa Duarte. They had a 1-run loss to Washington earlier in the year. The Huskies, also in the regular season, beat the Bulldogs of Mississippi State down in Puerto Vallarta. So Mississippi State will have another shot with their home run hitters, Mia Davidson and Fa Leilua. The Huskies, we saw them last year in the Champ Series, Smitty.
And they're led in the circle by Gabby Plain and Taryn Alvello. Gabby Plain is going to be strong at the lower half of the zone, and Taryn Alvello, velocity at the top half of the zone. They are outstanding, but the bats come alive. Sis Bates, a .380 batting average. Morgan Flores, 18 home runs on the year. This is a very strong team, top 10 in ERA as well as defense for the Huskies.
How about the overall #4 seed? It is the defending champs. They'll be playing at Joanne Graff Field in the Tallahassee Regional. The ACC tournament champs looking for a 4th trip to Oklahoma City in the last 6 years. And they will open up with the champs of the MEAC, the Bethune-Cookman Wildcats, led by Jackie Smith and Alexis Bermudez. That's Friday afternoon on ESPNU. Again, their opening game, double elimination format all weekend. The Gamecocks of South Carolina, who set a new single-season home run record this year, will also be headed to Tallahassee, and they will open up the tournament against the American Conference champs and one of the outstanding pitchers in the country, Georgina Korick, USF, will be headed to Tallahassee to open things up against Florida State in that region, Amanda, and they'll start out with South Carolina.
Yeah, and Florida State won it all last year with Megan King in the circle, and she's back. Last year's Women's College World Series, most outstanding player coming from the left-hand side and better than ever. And then their offense, so 7 players with 30 or more RBIs, 6 players with 10 or more home runs. This team can score a lot of runs.
And we've had a trend in the last 5 years. Back-to-back championships for Florida and then for Oklahoma. Will it be a similar story for Florida State, a 4 seed? Again, the top 8 seeds get to play at home for a regional. If you keep winning, you stay at home for a super regional. How about the 5 seed? Let's stay in the Sunshine State. And Florida, 6th place in the SEC this year with a .500 record, and they get the overall 5 seed in the tournament based on a strong a resume that includes a ton of top 25 wins for the Gators, and the two-time former champs will open up against the Patriot League champs from Boston U and 20-game winner Allie Dubois. Also headed to Gainesville, double elimination format on Friday. It's the Broncos of Boise State, an at-large Mountain West addition to the tournament, led by Cora Wade and Brandy Fillmore. And they will open up with the Stanford Cardinal. And you talk about a team that's ready to go. They have wins over UCLA, Michigan, LSU, and Northwestern, led by Tegan Cowles, Emily Schultz, and Maddie Dwyer. But it's the Florida Gators, tested time and time again, Michelle.
And it starts with Kelly Barnhill in the circle, the velocity up near 70 miles an hour, a rise ball at 3 different planes, but a lot of offense coming off of Amanda Lorenz's bat. A 400 career average for Amanda Lorenz. Kendall Lindemann doing damage as well. A very strong Gator team.
From the 2-time national champs to the 8-time national champs. And there are the Arizona Wildcats as the 6th seed, trying to get to the World Series for the 23rd time. They hit a ton of home runs, led by Jessie Harper and Deja Mulopolo. Got some quality pitching in the circle. And they will be at home in Hillebrand Stadium in Tucson on Friday against the Harvard Crimson, champs of the Ivy League, led by Tegan Shaw, Megan Lance, and Katie Duncan in their 6th NCAA tournament. Also Friday night on ESPN, the Auburn Tigers. They were a finalist at the World Series in 2016. They'll bring in Kendall Veach, a home run hitter, and Chardonnay Harris, very strong in the circle. Double elimination format for the Tigers will open up with the Mountain West champs, the Colorado State Rams, back in the tournament for the first time since 2003. And all eyes in Tucson will be on Arizona in that beautiful, newly renovated Hillenbrand Stadium.
And Taylor McQuillan most likely going to be in the circle for them, but Alyssa Denham has also helped out their pitching staff. McQuillan has lefty, all-American type stuff, 1.59 ERA. But their real story is their offense, their home run hitters. Jessie Harper, who has 25 home runs, and Deja Mulopolo with 21. This team loves to hit the ball out of that ballpark.
And this team is hungry. They've been eliminated in the Supers in 7 of the last 8 years. Can they get back to the Women's College World Series for the first time since 2010? They could stay home the next 2 weekends to try and get there. The overall 7 seed, and they are jumping for joy right now in Minneapolis, the highest seed ever for the Golden Gophers, as they will host a regional and possibly host a super regional led by Amber Pfizer and Natalie Den Hartog. They open up Friday night on ESPN3 against the Bison of North Dakota State, the Summit League champs led by KK Letty and Maddie Hansen. Also headed to Minneapolis, the Drake Bulldogs, one of the best pitchers in the country in Nicole Newman. They have won 28 of their last 29, champs of the Missouri Valley. And also a World Series team from a year ago, the Georgia Bulldogs with slugger Alyssa DiCarlo. And for Minnesota, a 7 seed, and they are playing some NCAA tournament ball in Minneapolis.
Amber Pfizer has led this team. She throws at the top of the zone with velocity. Sydney Smith helps her out as well in the circle, but they've had great bats. Hope Brander, 18 home runs. This is a Minnesota team that can put runs up on the board, but top 10 in the country in ERA and fielding percentage.
The Golden Gophers loving it. Some disappointment on selection shows in years past, but not this time around. Minnesota, the overall 7 seed. Are you wondering where the SEC regular season champs are? Right there, the 8th seed for the Alabama Crimson Tide, national champs in 2012, and they will be in the Rhodes House, where they have won 90% of their postseason games. They're at home against the Lady Hornets of Alabama State, with Charlene Castro leading the way. Also headed to Tuscaloosa for the double elimination regional this weekend, 2-time national champion Arizona State, with the Hackbarth sisters, Kendra and Maddie. And they will open up Friday afternoon against the champs of the A-Sun, the Lipscomb Bisons, winners of 20 of their last 21. And for Patrick Murphy and the Crimson Tide, staying home as an 8 seed.
Well, Coach Murphy was the SEC Coach of the Year, but they won a couple of other awards because of their new faces in the circle. Montana Fount, she was SEC Freshman of the Year, and Sarah Cornell, who was a transfer from Hofstra, SEC Pitcher of the Year. But they can swing to that too. 1 through 9, they all contribute to their offense, but Bailey Hemphill, 22 home runs, 69 RBIs, one of the big hitters across the country.
And the reaction in T-Town, never down. An 8 seed for the Crimson Tide. And these reactions you're seeing, they mean an awful lot. Not only are you in the tournament, but you will get an opportunity, stay in your own bed, work out in your own facility, and play at home, where 76% of the home teams win in the NCAA tournament. And obviously that means as an 8 seed, you've got a great chance of getting to the Women's College World Series.
Yeah, you absolutely do. But I looked through the top 8 seeds, Minnesota, and how competitive that regional is. Though they got a top 8 seed, they have a lot of good talent coming their way.
Yeah, and it's being able to play at home. It's being able to be in a situation where you know there's going to be distractions because of everything that's going on. It's going on at home, but playing at home and being able to win on your home field as a senior is nothing better if you can punch your ticket to Oklahoma City.
All right, plenty of Pac-12 representation, some SEC in there as well. One Big Ten. How many more may be coming from the Midwest? We are going to find out. We're only halfway through the field. The seeds 9 through 16 coming up. They will get a chance to host regionals this coming weekend. And also, Holly Rowe is going to be with us later on in the show. A very special night for the Louisiana Tech Techsters, who have been through the Bulldogs, excuse me, have been through so much this season, and they have rallied and responded, and they are in the field. Ole Miss, probably going to be an at-large selection out of the SEC. Will they be a seeded team, or will they have to hit the road next weekend? And the Kentucky Wildcats, a top 4 finish in the Southeastern Cup. Man, look at that fire pit outside of John Kropp Stadium. Will they be home in those rocking chairs next weekend? We're going to find out coming up.
The NCAA Softball Championship Selection Special is presented by Capital One. What's in your wallet? And in part by Geico. 15 minutes could save you 15% or more on car insurance. And Mike's Hard Lemonade. Drink on the bright side. Please enjoy responsibly. Welcome back to the NCAA Softball Championship Selection Special, presented by Capital One.
The regional coverage gets underway on Thursday, runs through the weekend, double elimination format, and we are ready to roll through the second half of the seeds. And a 9 seed, the Texas Longhorns, will be home in Austin for the regional with new coach Mike White and newcomers Miranda Ellish and Mary Iacopa joining Janae Jefferson and an outstanding freshman, Shaylin O'Leary. They will be on the Longhorn Network Friday at 5 o'clock against the Bearcats of Sam Houston State. They had back-to-back home runs to win the Southland from Tiffany Thompson and Brooke Malia, and they are in. Also headed to Austin for the regional. Double elimination format starts on Friday afternoon. It's the Houston Cougars, an at-large out of the American led by Sarah Baker, Ariel James, Presley Bell. They played Texas in April and took the loss. The Longhorns have beaten both of those teams already up there on your screen. And also headed to Austin, Texas A&M, a bubble team. In fact, the selection committee tells us the Aggies were one of the last teams in, but they are in for the 18th straight time in the NCAA tournament. And Texas is at home, Amanda, at McCombs Field.
Yeah, one of the new faces on their team is a transfer, Miranda Ellish, coming over from Oregon with 3 of her teammates. She's a player this year who's hitting a lot more, 1.92 ERA. And she also has Shay O'Leary, one of the best freshman pitchers in the country, who has the best ERA in the country. Janae Jefferson can do a lot. She's an All-American, has a lot of speed. And Mary Iacopo has an OPS over 1,000.
On to the 10 seed, and LSU will be home for the Baton Rouge Regional from Tiger Park. And that will get underway Friday night looking for another trip back to the Women's College World Series. This was a second-place team in the SEC, and they will open up against Monmouth, the Metro Atlantic champs. Alyssa Irons, number 2 in the nation in wins, very strong in the circle. Also, in Baton Rouge on Friday afternoon, the Red Raiders of Texas Tech with 400 hitter Carly Hamilton and pitcher Aaron Edmondson. They are an at-large out of the Big 12. They will open up on Friday against Louisiana Tech, the champions of Conference USA, with the Player of the Year, Jaslyn Crowder. And more on their story coming up later with Holly Rowe, a facility destroyed by a tornado last week, overcoming a lot to be a part of this Baton Rouge Invitational, Smitty, with the LSU Tigers.
LSU has 4 strong arms in the circle, 3 of them with double digits wins, and it's led by Shelby Sensiri. Great changeup. She's a dual player. She can hit as well as pitch. She has 16 home runs on the year, but Amanda Sanchez blasting the ball out of the park. Big pickup and big transfer over from Missouri. This is a very complete LSU team that has put a lot of runs up on the board, as well as Aaliyah Andrews' 45 stolen bases.
On to the overall number 11 seed in the tournament, and we stay in the Southeastern Conference with Ole Miss. They were in the Supers a couple years ago, played in a regional last year. Mike Smith has really turned that program around, led by 400 hitter Kylan Becker. They will start out Friday night on ESPN3 with the Chattanooga Mocs, the SoCon champs, with Allie Walker and Amanda Beltran leading the way. Also headed to Oxford, again, double elimination format all weekend long. The Ohio Valley Conference champion Red Hawks of Southeast Missouri State. That's a top 50 team in the country in batting average and ERA. And their first game will be against the Ragin' Cajuns of Louisiana, champs of the Sun Belt, and the national wins leader Summer Ellison in the circle. And Ole Miss gets to stay at home.
And another new face in the circle that we're seeing that just seems to continue to be a common theme. Molly Jacobson for Ole Miss, a JUCO transfer, sharing the time with Brittany Finney, and also Kylan Becker, who is at the top of the order for them. But Molly Jacobson, she's a lefty, changes speeds a lot. And I love the way that Brittany Finney and her pair up to go at these teams. Abby Latham, 48 RBIs throughout the year. And this is an Ole Miss team that has a lot of speed, 113 stolen bases. They cause a lot of havoc.
Then the Rebels become the 4th SEC team to get a host. I think they like where they're at as the overall 11. And they are ready to go at the Ole Miss softball complex in Oxford. We've got a theme developing here. How about another Southeastern Conference team with a seed? It's the 12 seed Lady Vols of Tennessee, led by Karen and Ralph Weekly. 7 trips to the Women's College World Series. And most recently in 2005, they will start out with the Lancers from Longwood. And they've got a really good base stealer in Chelsea Whitcomb, champs of the Big South. Also headed to Knoxville for the regional, the North Carolina Tar Heels. They lost to Tennessee in a non-conference game back in March. A lot of speed with base stealers Leah Murray and Kiami Ramsey. And also there will be the Buckeyes of Ohio State and their 2-time All-American Lily Piper and Emily Clark. They are an at-large from the Big Ten. And what do we think, Smitty, about the Tennessee Lady Vols?
Well, it's another SEC team led with a very strong pitching staff, and it's freshman Ashley Rogers who's been getting it done for Tennessee, but they also have Maddie Moss and Kaylin Arnold, so a complete staff all the way around with a top 10 fielding percentage team behind them. The offense has been explosive. Abby Leach, Chelsea Sager, and 45 home runs on the year, 57 stolen bases. This Tennessee team can fly.
Moving on to the 13th seed overall, and in Stillwater at Cowgirls Stadium, the Oklahoma State Cowgirls with 7 trips to the Women's College World Series, a second-place finish this year in the Big 12. They will face the West Coast Conference champs in the Stillwater Regional, which will get underway Thursday. BYU is there with Riley Jensen and Arissa Paulson. The Tulsa Golden Hurricane will be there. They beat Oklahoma State back in March on a Torrey Stafford home run and a Shanice Dels one-hitter. They may get a look at them again. And the Arkansas Razorbacks, an at-large out of the SEC, with Hannah McEwen and Danielle Gibson round out the field. Last year, State was in Arkansas. They're going to turn it around this time.
And they're led by another transfer in the circle, this time the senior from Texas A&M. She's a pitcher who can also hit for herself. That seems to be yet another theme. 17 wins, 17 home runs, 50 RBI. That leads the team. But Riley Bayless and Maddie Sue Montgomery add depth to this lineup that has hit 74 home runs and over a 300 batting average.
On to the 14 seed. They're partying around that fire pit outside John Kropp Stadium because Lexington is hosting a regional with their first ever SEC Player of the Year, Abby Cheek. It's Kentucky on Friday afternoon on ESPN3 against the Rockets of Toledo, the MAC champs in their first NCAA tournament since 1992. Also headed to Lexington, the regular season champs of the ACC, the Hokies of Virginia Tech, the only team in the field with a pair of 20-game winners in the circle. They also hit a ton of home runs, and they will start out with an at-large out of the Big Ten, the Fighting Illini of Illinois, and Bella Loya and Annie Fleming and Sydney Sickles. The Wildcats at home in Lexington, Michelle.
Grace Ballman gets it done in the circle, as well as Autumn Humes. This is another SEC team with a complete pitching staff. Know they need to go deep in a strong SEC season, but it's been the offense, and it comes all down to Abby Cheek, SEC Player of the Year, the first one ever for Kentucky. A 448 batting average, 20 home runs, just gaudy numbers for Abby Cheek. Also led by Katie Reeds. They have 4 hitters with double-digit home runs.
And the reaction in Lexington, a host site for the Kentucky Wildcats, looking to return to the World Series for the first time since 2014. On to the 15 seed. At Alumni Field in Michigan and Ann Arbor, the Wolverines are staying home. The 2005 national champs return to the top of the Big Ten this year with a regular season and a tournament crown, and they will open up against the Red Flash of St. Francis with Christina Clark and Haley Norton out of the Northeast Conference. DePaul will also be in Ann Arbor, champs of the Big East. They had to rally from an 8-run deficit to win the Big East Conference Championship. They were at the World Series 12 years ago. And the Dukes of James Madison, a team that some people thought might be a host site. Not this time for the Dukes. They're on the road, champs of the Colonial. Oh, by the way, they beat Michigan in 9 innings back in March. But the former champs, Michigan, staying at home, Amanda.
Well, Megan Beaubien was just a freshman last year and had a stellar year, and she backed it up with 28 wins and 200 strikeouts. She was an All-American last year, but I like their offense, led by Faith Canfield, the senior, an All-American. She's a leader, hitting .418, and Lexi Blair, one of the best freshmen in the nation, 21 doubles, 53 RBIs, and this team has a 5th best fielding percentage in the country.
And how about the final team that will host? And it's the Northwestern Wildcats, back-to-back here in the Big Ten Conference for their last 2 spots. They were at the World Series in 06 and 07, and they have the Big Ten Coach of the Year in Kate Drohan, and they are home on Friday afternoon in Evanston at Drysdale Field against a first-timer in the tournament, the Titans of Detroit Mercy, led by Liz Murphy and Corey Keys. They had to beat the top seed in their conference twice to advance. How about the Louisville Cardinals? They lost to Northwestern a couple times during the regular season. Celine Funky and Sydney Melton will lead the charge for the Cardinals, and an at-large, one of the last teams into the tournament, according to the selection committee. It's the Salukis of Southern Illinois with Jenny Jansen and Ashley Wood. Northwestern staying home in Evanston, Michelle.
And they're led by a freshman pitcher. Danielle Williams has just been outstanding from the left side. 200 innings pitched on the year, a whip of a .72, only 33 walks on the season. It's home runs by Rachel Lewis, 14 of them. This is a strong Wildcat team.
Oh, they are excited. They were on the host bubble, and it went their way, and they are at home for the regional in Evanston coming up this weekend. So there you go. There's the field with the top 16 seeds. We're going to put the whole bracket all together for you as we continue this evening to see who will advance to face who in a potential super regional down the line. All you got to do is go 5-0, right? And you're into the Women's College World Series. How hard can that be? things that impress you or that intrigue you about the 16 seeds in the field?
Oh, for me, I think it was the placement of some of them. I thought that Alabama, I thought they would go higher, being the regular season champs for the SEC. But the committee looks at a lot of different things. I think it's a very good 16-seeded field so far. It's going to be a fun postseason, as it always is.
I look at this bracket, I'm thinking this is one of the most competitive brackets that we've ever had, but that's been a theme this year, is a parity all across the country. So I can't wait to see in these competitive regionals, where are the upsets?
I think there's some really good interconference chatter right now. I'm sure Florida getting in higher seeded than Alabama. Minnesota getting in higher seeded than Michigan. A lot of fun stuff to talk about over the next few days as we get set for the tournament to start on Thursday and in most places on Friday. The Retrievers of UMBC, you got a championship. Good on you. And now you're headed to the NCAA tournament. The Titans of Cal State Fullerton, they're in too and ready to go. They will be playing at UCLA. And how about the Badgers of Wisconsin? Also getting in and headed to play in the same regional as the top seed Oklahoma Sooners.
You're watching the NCAA Softball Championship Selection Special, presented by Capital One.
How about the celebration for the Wildcats of Weber State? The Big Sky champions are headed to Easton Stadium in Westwood to open up against the 11-time champ UCLA Bruins. Time now for our Capital One rewarding performance. They are the overall #1 seed in the tournament, Patty Gasso's Oklahoma Sooners, with a NCAA single-season record, 39-game win streak. And their rankings in the NCAA, #1 in batting average, #1 in earned run average, #1 in fielding percentage, the #1 trifecta. They've got all the bases covered. And speaking of covering all the bases, who better to do that than our very own Holly Rowe? Holly?
Well, thank you, Beth. For Oklahoma, you think about all that they had to replace from last year's team. In the circle, Paige Parker, Paige Lowry, but they are the #1 overall seed for just the second time in school history. So they have done a tremendous job this season, really putting it together. They've got a nucleus of seniors that won the national championship as freshmen. If you really think about it, they have walked off that field at Oklahoma City as national champions 2 of their 3 years that they've been playing for the Oklahoma Sooners. It's unprecedented. And now they have a chance to win their 3rd national championship. But they went home early last year. They lost at the World Series. And Patty Gasso told me earlier this year that when they went home and they were watching those games on TV, as they saw Florida State win the national championship, they were looking at how scrappy and how feisty they were playing. And they thought, that's how we used to play, and that's how we will get back to playing. So Patty Gasso has done a great job with this team, getting them to have a sense of urgency, a championship mindset. They won the Big 12 championship, and I think a #1 overall seed really speaks to that sense of urgency this senior class has. Congratulations. It's Mother's Day. Happy Mother's Day, Patty Gasso, and to all the great coaching moms out there, and softball moms.
The Sooners get the overall #1 seed for the second time in program history. 2013, they got it. They won it all. 6 SEC teams will host a regional. The last 4 in, the lucky ones, Boise State, Southern Illinois, Texas A&M, and Houston. And unfortunately, the first 4 out, Oregon State, Indiana, San Jose State, and UNLV. Some of the things that you need to know, and some of the things that caught our attention and based on Twitter caught the attention of a lot of fans out there. People wondering, guys, how does the SEC's regular season champion, the Alabama Crimson Tide, with 9 top 10 wins, get an 8 seed in this tournament?
Well, I think what was surprising about all that is the fact that Alabama is so strong, but their non-conference SOS, like we like to call it, strength of schedule, was 106, as opposed to Minnesota that had a non-conference #1 strength of schedule. So for me, that was part of it, the power that we know that Alabama has, and the fact that they've gone head-to-head with Minnesota and beat them twice, so the eye test, it just gives you a different look, a different way to think about the bracket and how it's been picked.
They won the conference, which was ranked #1 in RPI. Nobody had more top 10 wins than the Tide did. They have 12 top 25s, 32-0 in the non-conference. But according to the selection committee, when we talked to them today, they were not helped at all by that weak non-conference strength of schedule. So you make the call. Should they be higher because they were the SEC champs, or should they be lower because they did not play the non-conference schedule that the selection committee thought they should have? Minnesota, they end up, even though they're second place in the Big Ten, behind Michigan in the regular season and in the tournament. They get a 7 seed. They had just the 2 top 10 wins, but they played such a strong schedule. Talking to the selection committee, they got a lot of attention and a big pat on the back for challenging themselves.
Yeah, and that just seemed to be the common theme, is non-conference strength of schedule. But remember, a couple of years ago, Minnesota didn't get a national seed because of their strength of schedule. So props to them for going out and scheduling a much more difficult schedule, and they're rewarded for it.
So again, you make the call when you look at how strong their schedule was, but then you go down to the bottom. They were 0-5 against the SEC and lost to Alabama twice. Do you have to just schedule tough, but you also have to win some of those? Yeah. They did get 8 RPI top 25s, and the selection committee really liked that. Oh, by the way, when you look at the road for Minnesota, they can shut everybody up. They may have to get through 2 SEC teams to get into the World Series. Also, some folks thought that JMU had earned the right to be a host with wins against Tennessee, Michigan, Drake, and Virginia Tech. But they also had 17 games against teams with an RPI of 150 or lower, and that may have been costly.
Well, and JMU has Megan Good, who's a very good two-way player. I think, again, the non-conference SOS for them was 21. They had an RPI of 14. I was surprised that they did not get the ability to host a regional. But, you know, everybody has an opportunity to go on the road and to play and to punch their ticket to Super Regionals and then Oklahoma City. So playing at home is an advantage, but sometimes it's also a distraction.
Well, and not that RPI is everything, but JMU is the only top 16 RPI team to not host a regional. So they were left out, and Ole Miss, who was about 18 RPI, bumped up to the 11 national seed. So a big move for Ole Miss.
Yeah. Well, there you go. A little discussion about some of the intriguing things that we thought were attention-worthy out of the bracket and the top 16 seeds. Some more reaction. That's the Bulls of USF down in the Tampa area. They're ready to go. And the comfy chairs are out right there for the Bison of North Dakota State into the NCAA tournament and looking to make a little noise. From the Bison to the Bison and Lipscomb. They're having themselves a good time tonight watching the selection show. And the Missouri Tigers, all 13 SEC teams getting into the field for the 3rd year in a row.
You're watching the NCAA Softball Championship Selection Special.
Well, of all the teams who are in the NCAA softball tournament, perhaps none have gone through more adversity than Louisiana Tech. An F3 tornado tore through their campus on April 25th. 2 people were killed, over $9 million of damage to the city there in Ruston. Their softball facility is a total loss and will have to be rebuilt. But this resilient team has fought forward, and they are still in the NCAA tournament, winning their first regular season conference championship. Joining us now is their coach, Mark Montgomery. And Coach, I can't imagine what you've been through as a group. I remember emailing you the week of the tornado, and you said, we're just trying to get through practice today. Yeah. How did your young ladies get through that difficult and very terrifying moment when that tornado tore through town?
Well, you know, I think it's just one of those things that you just kind of take the next step, whatever that is. And you take it all in. It was surreal. when it first happened and everybody was just in shock, and then you just do what you're supposed to do next, and then you worry about what's next, and you just keep going. And eventually we had a practice that afternoon, and it certainly was far from a good practice, but ultimately it allowed us to start processing and moving on. And then when you see the community and the involvement that they put forth in terms of helping clean our facility and doing all the work, and just the total support of both Louisiana Tech University and the Ruston community, it was just a sight to see. And I think it inspired our girls to realize that they were playing not just for themselves anymore, but for something much bigger.
They did carry on playing. UL Monroe allowed you to go up just that very weekend, senior weekend. You had a series against the first place team in the conference, and you borrowed a field and you still found a way to win that game. But tell us a little bit about how putting life in perspective and realizing that softball is just something fun that you do, how that's kind of helped your team actually get better on the field.
Well, it did, because it allowed our girls to see that, there's no pressure attached to a game. A game's just going out and doing what you train for and you enjoy, and pressure is a lot greater. And when they see that, again, how much work had to be done in the community and how many helping hands came out to do it, it allowed them to see that, we just need to just go play, and there's nothing that we need to feel pressure about or worry about. And we had girls that were working and trying to help clean up and then take senior pictures and then go play a game. But they were proud to do it, and again, the community was fantastic just in all their help. But like you said, Monroe offering up their field was a tremendous gesture on their part, and again, it was just an overall overwhelming sense of just family.
Well, thank you so much, Coach Mark Montgomery. He's got their team 44 wins, the third highest total in school history. Just headed up the road to LSU for this regional. I know that even though you're playing against Louisiana State, you are going to have all of Louisiana have your back and be cheering loud for you in the NCAA tournament. Thank you so much, Coach. Beth.
Thank you very much, Holly. Appreciate everything.
Well, if you need somebody to root for, you've got one right there in Louisiana Tech, the champs of Conference USA, and they will be opening up play on Friday at Tiger Park in LSU. All right, let's break down some of the players that we think you might want to keep an eye on over the course of this regional weekend. We'll start out with some of the best arms in the business. Carrie Eberly, the ACC's Pitcher of the Year.
Yeah, she goes down the zone well, mixes in a rise ball and a changeup, a 1.73 ERA. She's only given up 5 home runs and 190 innings pitched. Also just 52 walks. 25 wins for Eberly on the year. And then Nicole Newman. I just keep hearing about Nicole Newman. I can't wait to watch her pitch in person. 400 strikeouts, a sub-1 ERA. You guys, she's thrown 5 perfect games. It set a D1 single-season record. Can't wait to watch her pitch.
Georgina Corrick, a sophomore for the University of South Florida, has been strong in the circle. She's got a drop ball that looks like her pitching coach is Jessica Moore. Ken Erickson loves her, knows that she's a big part of the success. A .90 ERA, top 5 in the country, a whip .8. So she doesn't walk them, she keeps them off the bases, why she's been so successful.
All right, from the pitchers, it's been the year of the home run hitters nationwide, and one of the leaders right now is Mia Davidson, tied with Jessie Harper.
The 25 home runs on the year ties an SEC record with Kelly Kretschmann, Alex Hugo. She can bash them out of the park to all field, 62 RBIs on the season. DeCarlo for UGA, another one of those swatters that can get the ball out of the yard. She loves to go oppo with it. 21 home runs, school records and home runs and RBI. DeCarlo having an amazing senior year. But that batting average as well, gaudy at .391.
And then Kate Brooks will be in Norman, Oklahoma. She's the ACC Player of the Year. In her senior season, all she did so far, 20 home runs, 56 RBIs. Those teams in the Norman Regional will have their hands full with Kate Brooks.
Well, look at some of the top pitchers and some of the top home run hitters that will be on display in the field. They are the Hokies of Virginia Tech, and they are celebrating the ACC regular season champs. Are into the NCAA tournament, and so are the Raiders of Texas Tech. We're going to put the bracket together and talk supers on the other side.
national champs, earning a 4 seed this year in the NCAA tournament. Joining us now is their coach, Lonnie Alameda. And Coach, you didn't win the regular season in the ACC, but you just won your 6th straight ACC tournament championship. What is going well for your team right now heading into postseason?
Just playing together like a team. We always come together and have pretty good culture this time of year, and just have a lot of fun. As you can see behind me, we hang out as one family and have a lot of fun together.
Coach, you've got some great players, but Megan King has turned it up even higher level this year, carrying most of your load, 29-5. She was so good in the postseason last year. What do you expect from Megan King in the circle?
She's got a lot of experience. Kinger's the glue right now for us in the circle, and she's been great, but she's one competitive pitcher, and that's one thing that really separates her.
Wonderful. Thanks for joining us. We love the puppy there. Can you pet the puppy for us? Thank you so much. We can't wait to see that.
Oh my gosh, there's tons of puppies. I will, yes.
Thank you, Coach.
Bye, Holly. Thanks.
Lost their opener of the World Series last year and came roaring back to win the national championship. Let's let the mayhem begin. Friday's slate for you on the ESPN networks looks like that, including the overall #1 seed Oklahoma and the 8-time national champion Arizona Wildcats. If the seeds hold and the seeded teams advance out of the regionals and play in the supers, here's what things will look like, with Oklahoma potentially meeting up with Northwestern. Who do you like out of this super?
I like Oklahoma. They have a .367 batting average against left-handed pitchers.
How about the 8-9 matchup? It could be Texas in Alabama at the Rhodes House for the super.
Yeah, like Elish, Miranda Elish in the circle for Texas going up against those Alabama hitters, but I think Alabama takes this one at the Rhodes.
In the 5-12 part of the bracket, it could be an all-SEC showdown for the Super Regional in Gainesville.
I like Florida, Barnhill and Lorenz. Those are two big seniors.
Florida State, there are the defending champs, and Oklahoma State possibly meeting up.
Yeah, 2 more seniors, Samantha Shaw and Megan King, potentially going at it in the super.
Again, if the seeds hold in the regionals, Washington will host Kentucky in a super, SEC versus Pac-12.
If Plain and Avallo keep Abby Cheek in the ballpark, Washington goes.
Ole Miss and Arizona, another potential matchup between the Pac-12 and the SEC.
Those Molly Jacobson off-speed pitches could do well against the Arizona power.
Could it be Minnesota hosting LSU in Minneapolis on a second weekend of the Super?
I like LSU. They've played a hard SEC road series and season, so I like LSU out of that one.
And then this could be the best Super of them all. They started it in 2005, the very first Champ Series when Michigan beat UCLA. So that would be 2 potential former national champs meeting in a Super. And we'll be back for more in a moment.